Hi, it's Philip Fernandez here. Coming you today, well, obviously under the umbrella of the Winning Mindset Academy, but I'm not going to do a podcast today as I normally do. I'm going to talk about leadership. I've been thinking about this in these very uncertain times, and how does leadership play out, in parts of Australia, around the world, in the various states. It's a very interesting topic. But more importantly, today I wanted to talk about authentic leadership. Now, all of us have got, if I've asked you what your view or your take on authentic leadership might be, we all come up with very different sort of definitions of the word. But really, if you think about ourselves, if you're a manager going to work, and at work, we're expected to behave in a certain way because we want to be respected by our followers, by our employees, and we think that is a form of leadership. But just thinking that way, for starters, is not really ourselves, because we are thinking about this is how we need to behave because we wear the title of a manager. And so already in that respect, we're not really being ourselves and can be perceived by our employees as someone that, should we trust, is it really them? So how do we get on top of this? How can we genuinely be a good leader, genuinely be ourselves? I know it's a tough one for a lot of us. I'm in the leadership space, and certainly I make a living out of it, helping leaders and executives understand themselves as leaders and how they come across and how they can inspire and empower their people. So authentic leadership is something I want to quickly talk about today. If you think about what's happening around the country, around the world, and one of the first things that authentic leadership can be looked at as is the behavior that we display. The behavior that creates trust, the behavior that creates integrity, that behavior that creates believability. So how do you define that behavior? What are some examples of that particular behavior? Is it we do as we say? Do we make decisions knowing that they're probably the unpopular ones, but we have to stand by that? And that's a tough one that a lot of leaders I find difficult to adopt, because should we make the decision based on the popular one that the followers want, that the community wants to hear, but in the long run, it's probably not the right one. So that's something to think about as far as the right behavior, how we carry ourselves, how we present ourselves. And sometimes it can be crossed over with a bit of charisma. Yes, that might come into play with certain leaders, but at the end of the day, it's deeper than that. It's about who we are and how genuine we are in believing that how we display ourselves, we're very comfortable with. The other part of it is taking ownership. Point two is taking ownership of your decisions, good or bad. I know it's great to take ownership when the outcome's positive and we've made the right decision, we're getting accolades. But, can we take the ownership again with the negative decision, with the wrong decision that we've made, and in fact admit that, I did make that mistake? To me, that is a greater mark of a true leader. And rather than shunning your followers, you will gain more followers and more respect. But they might not necessarily like everything that you say, but at the end of the day, they will respect you, and that's more important. So taking ownership is extremely important. And lastly, of course, is challenging the status quo, whatever that might be. If you're a leader or a manager in an organization where you're second or third down the rung, and you are not seeing what you like, even though you think, well, that's policy, but is that justified? Is that ethical? Should I challenge the status quo? Yes, you should. And of course, should I stand up for my followers and my employees? Yes, I should. That is also a tough one. Challenging the status quo. Is it ethical? Is it right? Is it just? Is it fair? That is a third trait of what I feel an authentic leader is all about. I want you to think about those three things today. And let me read you a quote from Peter F. Drucker, who is a management educator and author. And he talks about, and he says, management is doing things right, but leadership is doing the right things. Think about that. Well, as I finish today, I want you to think about what your take is on leadership. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And please send in your thoughts on the comments of what you think authentic leadership is in your world. What's your take of it? Are you in a space where you are embracing and enjoying authentic leadership by your leaders, by your managers, or is it the negative that's happening? You yourself, do you think that you are displaying authenticity in how you manage your people? I'd like to say farewell, and until then, see you at the winning table. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye.